Sewer Williams CO.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I think after listening to the member before, I just want to assure that on this side of the House, the Labour opposition takes seriously this bill. And when you take these things seriously, you've also got to acknowledge the fact that we rely on our farming industry, we rely on our horticulture, our viticulture, our orchards, our pork industry, our honey industry. And I think it needs to be taken into consideration that I have to disagree with the previous member who says that the importers should be our concern and our priority. Well, it is really our farming industry that we need to be looking at to secure and protect. And that's the reason why you have security legislation. That's the reason why you have biosecurity legislation, is for we need to recognise that we do rely on our farming, on our green and clean image, and we've got to protect that. And I think it would be foolhardy simply to say that this piece of legislation is going to protect everything. Let me just read you a part of the report. This bill seeks to amend this part to allow the biosecurity system to respond to an increasingly challenging environment by providing for more effective and efficient risk management and for clearer roles and responsibilities and better collaboration and partnership. And I think what that says, sir, is that there is a lot of work that we've got to do in order to protect our borders and protect our bioenvironment. And I think what that also says, sir, is that we are going to need to rely on the exchanges of information within the various government departments that service and protect our borders. But it also means that we've got to work in partnership with the industry itself. And I have to say, sir, that it's still very much in the memories of many farmers that not too long ago we had a problem with the PSA leaf blight outbreak in the kiwi fruit, and the potential $75 million cost of PSA to our kiwi fruit industry should be a reminder to us, sir, of how important our biosecurity services are, well-resourced and operating effectively. And so it is to no credit whatsoever to this government when they cut the budget by $2 million, as my colleague has pointed out, when they get rid of 55 jobs, as my colleague has pointed out, and then expect us to still be able to protect our borders. And I think what Sue Kedgley said earlier from the Green Party makes sense. And so there's no politics in this. Nobody wins. And I think we've got to take seriously the fact that we've got an economic advantage in terms of our farming industry, our clean and green image, but we will lose that, or all of that is at risk if we attempt to just bully our way through by passing legislation and saying that that's going to fix the problems. And I want to say, sir, reiterate what Damien O'Connor, our spokesperson on biosecurity, has said. Whilst Labour will allow the passage of this legislation in its second reading, we will continue to engage and talk to the industry out there and decide from there whether we will be supporting this legislation at the House Committee stage and the third reading, because we do need to take seriously, sir, that we do depend very much on our protecting our borders, protecting our biosecurity. And we hope that the more targeted approach to border checks will make the Ministry of Agriculture and Fisheries operation more efficient. But, sir, when you're looking at sharing information and sharing intelligence between government agencies, they can only do so much with the resources that are given to them. And if the government continues to cut funding from important areas and cut jobs from those significant areas, then who is to blame if we put our biosecurity at risk. We would like to acknowledge, sir, the good work that the Ministry of Agriculture and Biosecurity in New Zealand, Horticulture in New Zealand, and all the New Zealand kiwi fruit growers have done in handling the PSA outbreak. That was, I think we've got to be quite nervous when you look at what happened there, because you certainly don't want to have that repeat of that occurring. You don't want the mad cow disease here, sir. You don't want a tax on our bee or honey industry. You certainly don't want to put our wildlife at risk, our flowers, our fruits, our wine industry, because not only will the industry be at risk, but there's much, much more. It has rippling effects. There's jobs, there's livelihoods. It has impact on prices of some of these products. And that's probably one of the reasons why we're quite keen on ensuring that there's a robust inquiry around the milk prices, because if that sort of thing is happening in terms of what's being sold overseas and the prices of what is sold here, you've got to ask those particular questions. The minister claimed that the job cuts were needed as the recession has resulted in a fall in car imports and international arrivals, and thus the government was left carrying the cost of stuff which levies no longer covered. Well, that's an extremely short-sighted approach, Mr. Speaker, to biosecurity management. Key imports such as used cars have already rebounded to near 2008 levels, and international arrivals have been a record high this year. So why is the minister, why won't he reinstate the 55 jobs that he cut? And does he expect Biosecurity New Zealand to provide the same effective services and nationwide coverage with fewer staff on hand? So, and I was not present in the primary select committee when submissions have heard, but I have to say what I've heard from colleagues of the Green and from the Māori Party are serious submissions made from the public, which hopefully this government takes into consideration, because, as I said, it is a serious issue. We do need to take care. We do need to protect our clean and green image, and we'll continue to talk to the industry individuals and the constituents that are involved before determining our final decision on this in the third reading and in the House Committee. I have to say, sir, that whilst I'm not presently a farmer, I have grown up around farmer. I know what it's like. I know how hard people work to try and protect their livelihoods. And I think the government owes it to this country to ensure that we're doing all that we can to ensure that we're not only protecting the livelihoods for which this economy depends on, but protecting also for future generations. Just in closing, sir, I want to take the liberty and endorse the statements that were said earlier, the condolences, the commendation towards Sir Paul Reeves and Lady Beverley. I count myself as a close friend of Sir Paul, said Mr. Speaker, and his loss will be terribly missed by the Pacific communities, by people in Manukau. Sir Paul was a good friend of ours. He was a steadfast champion of the young people in Manukau. He was somebody that we looked upon with deep respect, who attempted to connect people irrespective of their backgrounds. And in the role that Sir Paul had with the Auckland University of Technology, he made sure that many of our young people from schools in Manukau were able to perform in front of audiences that they would normally not perform in. And that was a manifestation, Mr. Speaker, of Sir Paul Reeves attempting to connect the people of Manukau with the people of Remuera, the rich and poor, old and young, Pākehā and Polynesia. And I would just add my respects also to Sir Paul Reeves' family, and it is my prayer that they will be comforted and the dark clouds that hover over them will dissipate. Thank you for the opportunity.